Hello, everybody. It is I guess I can't really call it a pop-up because I did announce it, but it is a poorly planned live event because I wasn't supposed to go live tonight. But, things happen. And I've been trying to be good about making my videos going out at about the same time. And so since the beginning of the year, I've been doing a video at this time, sometimes live. I've done my deep dives at this time. A lot of times it's just a premiere, and it should have been a premiere, but I didn't edit my video. So, hey, I'll just go live. So instead of doing a haul video that you get to see via video, you get to see it live. So you can tell me what you think live. So we've got people that are already jumping in. So I appreciate everyone who heard and maybe had a reminder set up or saw one of my announcements, because again, it wasn't really planned, but thanks, Vicky, for signing in. Your packages were just packed up, and I'll have the labels printed tonight, and they'll be going out tomorrow. Got Nate coming in from New Zealand. He's got kind of the night off. He doesn't have to track any sales, so he'll just be grabbing a drink and kicking back and hopefully enjoying us in the chat. I got Debbie from Chicago coming in. Tia Fane coming in from Canada. Got Meliart coming in from Finland. Thanks so much for coming back and joining us. Rebecca coming in from Maine. And we've got Classic Old Soul, which I know you've joined me before, but I can't remember where you're based. But regardless, thank you so much for coming back in. And let's see, Tacky is me. We got another great from the great state of Illinois. He's from Southern Illinois. So welcome, Daniel. Thanks so much for joining. Oh, Katie, so glad you made it over. I figured you might still be on the chat with Angela. So thanks for making it over. We've got our first Terp in the house. We've got Chad from Maryland coming in. So thanks so much for joining. Tammy Renee Walker coming in. West of me. Oh, I can't remember. I don't want to write them down because I think that's cheating, but then I feel bad when I can't actually remember when somebody's based. So, but thanks for joining, Tammy. That's what counts. So thanks for joining in. And let's see. So Tallahassee, Florida, Classic Old Soul. It's Tallahassee, Florida. I will try and remember that. So tonight we're just going to kind of hang out. I'm not going to be on for super long. I usually, I'll probably hang up with, or hang up. I'll turn it off probably within an hour or so. We'll just see, what I cover, what I go through. I did have. Vicky must have been feeling sick, so I'm glad you're feeling better. I did have some friend mail. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the friend mail, because some of the friend mail was for me. Yay. But some of it is also starting to come in for the Just One More Dachshund Rescue fundraiser. And that is totally fine. If you could, I'm asking people not to start sending me stuff for the fundraiser, because then I have to store it, since the fundraiser won't actually be until November. But, I'm very appreciative when people do share with me. Got Kim coming in from the Buckeye State of Ohio. So thanks for joining us, Kim. So one of the things I'll start with the friend mail piece, because it all came from the same person. So this is from Michelle Decker, who happens to be somewhat local to me. And so she had, when she buys from my live sales, which I do on Thursday nights, she's lucky enough to be able to be local enough to pick them up. So she doesn't have to pay for shipping. And as appreciation for that, she had picked up, actually, this is now the second one she gave me. She picked up these date of first day of issue postcards. And this one is from Wittenberg, which is where I graduated from. This is the second one she gave me. But the first one she gave me was of the art up here in the corner, which is Myers Hall, and that is actually my freshman dorm for when I graduated, for when I went to Wittenberg. But what she didn't know is that this image, and you can see it's kind of done at an angle. If you're watching my video, you get to be in a trusty secret. That's the design for my tattoo. So that is what I took to the tattoo artist to turn into a tattoo. And so I actually have Myers Hall as my, really my first and only tattoo. But it's specifically that image done at an angle. So, and I made sure when they did it, the images here don't really show it very well, but I made sure it was put in there just as like a little pinpoint. if you look at this center, if you look at the center of that photo, if you look at the staircase, not the level that's at the top of the stairs, but the level right above that, that was my dorm. And there's kind of a shadow there, so it might actually be there. There is a ginormous porch lantern that hangs from that. It's chained to the column so it doesn't swing and smash into the wall. It hung right outside my window and lit up our room at the same time it lit up the quad. So we had, for a short time, we had aluminum foil on our windows until they asked us to take it down, because every time someone tried to take a picture for marketing purposes of how great Myers Hall looked, there was aluminum foil in the window, and they didn't like that. So that is my little twist to Wittenberg. So I got a couple people, other people joined in. Dave in the Med Center, so he's coming in from Texas, if I remember correctly. So thanks for joining in again, Dave. And let's see. Well, Scott may have a tattoo, but I'm Patrick, so I have a tattoo. I actually wanted to see if Tammy Renee Walker, if she answered where she lives, because I need to try and make a mental note to that. She's saying hi to everyone. But no, I don't see that she said that, so I'm trying not to miss it. Let's see if I missed anybody. Oh, Christy's coming in from the West Coast. I don't think I had anybody from the West Coast yet. Oh, Sandy's in the house. Sandy, your package just also got packaged up. Used a lot of bubble wrap. She bought a elaborate glass compote on this ridiculously tiny stem. And I really, Florida, I got another Florida. The two people I didn't know came from Florida. Okay. It has this, what I was concerned is a very fragile stem. So I've wrapped it in paper, then I wrapped it in bubble wrap, then just the stem. And then I wrapped it in paper again, so that I made the dimension of the stem the size of the glass at the top, and then wrapped that in paper and bubble wrap. And, it fit very nicely into the box. So I'm sure it will make it to you in one piece. Gritty Gret's coming in here from Kentucky. So thanks for joining in. Robin A is also another Marylander. We've got Maryland very much in the house. We've got some high representation. My tattoo is on my chest. So the question from Classic Old Soul, my tattoo is on my chest. So no embarrassing spots or anything, but it is a full color tattoo, and it was definitely part of my midlife crisis. Very stressful to get your first tattoo. It's like, I feel like I had like 7, it wouldn't be a big deal, but because I was getting one, like what's your first tattoo? You got to pick what the subject matter is going to be. Hey, Linda, thanks for coming in. Yes, so Wittenberg is one of those cases that, you look back, and again, this was definitely happening. My midlife crisis was very much a real thing. And I look back, like, when was I happiest? I felt that the 4 years I spent at Wittenberg, away from home, no mortgage, no job, all the other stuff, all those other responsibilities that start hitting you with adulthood. I loved Wittenberg. And so I really wanted a tattoo that was something that was positive, and that was the one I chose. My daughter is graduating from college this year. She actually is going to have a graduation ceremony, so I'll be going out there in May. And she's having her first dose of like real adulthood. She was driving about an hour and a half north of here, and she got a flat tire. And so suddenly it was like, what do I do? So I'm trying to walk her through, and she did. She unfortunately she couldn't get the tire off, but she got all the lug nuts off. She got the jack under the car, and she got the car lifted up. It was something, one of the bolts, because how she got the flat also damaged the rim, so she couldn't get it off. She just couldn't do it. So we had to get help for her. And even the guy was like, wow, I've never seen a girl change a tire, which first of all is ridiculously insulting, but she had her first dose of real adulthood. I'm like, yep, you could just call, and Classic Old Soul, call AAA. She has the what's it called with Hyundai? Is it OnStar, or they have something else? I can't remember, but we have it specifically so that she has roadside assistance and all that. And I'm like, you can do that, but just be aware you may wait a while, to get it. So if you think you can do it, So she gave it a try, and I was on the phone the entire time, hear her grunting and dropping things. I'm like, are you okay? Going all right? Just grunt if you're alive. And so she almost did it, but so it was kind of like a weird level of positivity from the tow truck, because he actually couldn't get it off either, which made her feel a lot better. He had to use a mallet to knock it off, to knock it off the bolt. So it was not anything that she didn't do, or that she couldn't do. It was just, that's just what happened. So, adulthood hits, and adulthood sometimes sucks. So she got her first taste of that. But anyway, so yes, my tattoo is of my best days of my life, my college years. So she gave me that, which I thought was super, super kind of her. And then she also gave me a couple of items, which, like I said, will be going to the for the fundraiser. Now, these are all things that she said if I wanted to keep them, I was more than welcome to do so. And I'm always grateful for people, that offer that. And in a handful of cases, I've gotten things that then I do put into my personal collection, but I don't want to start new collections. And so sometimes I get these really great things, which are wonderful, but they're just not something I'm going to put into my personal collection. So I told her, I said, thank you so much, but I'll end up using this as the fundraiser. Cause I feel weird selling something somebody gave me as a gift. But if I, donate it into the fundraiser and use it to help raise money for the dachshunds, maybe it's still tacky. I don't know. Danielle, is it tacky? Tacky as you. So, I don't know. I just feel a little bit better when I get something as a gift, which I don't get stuff all that often, but in the handful of times, instead of feeling guilty or trying to put it in display, I just make it a fundraiser. So this was one of them. It is made in Italy for Rico Industries. There's still the label is on the back. And then on the bottom, it's actually still marked. It's the Capodimonte mark, the N with the 3 crowns. And from 1970, what was it? 78. From 1978. And a couple of the things that she donated, this being one of them, when I started looking for it, they sell for really good money, and this design, this guy with a little, what is that called? Not optical, monocle. The guy with a little monocle, like he's actually sold before. And I want to say he sold I think he was listed for $70, but the seller took best offer. So he probably sold for like between 50 or 60, depending on how much the offer was. So there's value to this little dude, and it's a great piece. And, if I wanted to collect Toby mugs, or if I wanted to, collect weird, creepy people with monocles, this would be a great part of my collection, but instead I will make him part of the fundraiser. And so what I'll start doing, particularly some of the earlier things, I may start putting things up into an auction format. But if anybody, like anything I'm covering, this is pretty much going to be a rambling haul video. If you see something you like and you want it, I'll sell straight out of my haul videos. I don't care. So if you buy something that I've flagged for the fundraiser, I will just put the money aside, and then I'll just include it as part of the fundraiser when I do that. So, we got Melody in the house. So Melody has come in. We got Jackie's joining us. Thanks so much, Jackie, coming from the great Hoosier state of Indiana. Melody, the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Jeannie coming in from, of course, Chicago. Rita coming in from one of the Dakotas, and I can never remember which. I think South Dakota, but could be North. Susan Way coming in from Connecticut, maybe East Coast. And yes, I landed on monocle. So tacky is in the eye of the beholder. So, okay, good to remember. Good to remember, Daniel. And I should actually, you're joking, but I should also say the vintage community is so great, and they give gifts all the time. And some resellers do actually resell them. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not at any point judging, what people are doing, because when you get to the point where you're receiving, gifts like 3, 4, 5 times a week, if it's not something you're putting into your personal collection, what else are you going to do with it? So I just don't, because I don't get it very often. So for me, I have another place to put it. So I just put it as part of the fundraiser. So let's see, did I miss anybody else? So Sandy's saying, so I had to change one for a girlfriend. She still won't do it. I even said, I told my daughter, I said, I bet there are very few people, she's 21. I bet there's very few people her age that have actually done it. Like they just, they would call their parents or, whatever. And again, that's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But like I told her, I'm like, well, thank you so much for calling me. First of all, it's during the work day and I have a day gig. So that's troublesome. But I mean, I could have told my boss, like, look, I need to do this. But I was an hour and a half away. So it's kind of like, and I still, I mean, at that point, we didn't know the wheel wouldn't come off. But, it's just like, if you're going to need me to come up, you have OnStar, they'll probably be there within an hour and a half. And as it turned out, they did. I think they told her it'd be a little over an hour. And I think it ended up being like 35 minutes. So it really wasn't that bad. But it was one of those, like the entire experience was like a 3-hour thing because first, there's a whole backstory that she had just gotten her oil changed. And when she got the oil changed, they rotated her tires. She was less than a mile away from where they did that and her tire ruptured. So the assumption is they did something to mess up her tire. Now they're claiming they didn't. And I've done some research and it doesn't sound like that's something that can happen. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, so her first call was to them saying, get your butt over here. It's your fault and fix this. So she waited for them for quite a while to the point that she had to call them and like, oh yeah, the guy that we were going to have sent, come get you. He had a family emergency, had to go home. We have nobody else to come get you. They had never called her to tell her this. Like she had to check. So then it's like, okay, what's plan B? So suddenly we're going down plan B and then what's plan C? And, you do what you got to do. And so, and that's it. You have AAA, but who is it? Somebody just said, like, so true about the wait. It's just one of those cases that luckily it was good weather. She was in a safe area. Like there was no issue. Like she was not in a dangerous area. She was able to pull off the road. She was in a parking lot. So she wasn't like along a major road that she was unsafe. She had some flexibility on her side because I told her like, after it was all done, I said, had it been raining or it had been like 6:30 at night and it was about to get dark, you can just call OnStar right then. It's like you need to do it because you need to get them and you can't risk, being stuck someplace late at night. So luckily it all worked out. So yeah, Rebecca Higgins bought the Kiwi plate I had carried in honor of Nate. And that's it. Daddy won't always be there. And, she gets tired of me telling her sometimes, because I'll just tell her all the time, like adulting sucks. And, she's pretty much lived in a bubble. She's an only child. We pretty much have taken care of everything for her. She's, COVID has definitely given her some awakening moments like it has the rest of us. And it's just like, you can't will something to happen. Like you can't just say, I want this and then just assume it's going to happen. So it's, I was very proud of her that she was willing to try it. She was, even though she couldn't finish it, that she got it far enough that she now knows if she had to, she would be able to do it on her own. And then you'd be Nate, just don't worry about it and don't drive at all. So, but that's not always feasible either. So it all depends on the situation. It's one of those cases I still fantasize sometimes about living downtown, like downtown Chicago. My favorite would be downtown DC, where you don't need a car. The fact of the matter is I'd still need a car. I need a car for my job. I need a car, to, do major shopping or whatever. I'd still want one, but the idea that I wouldn't have to drive, it's so attractive. But, probably a fantasy. Who knows if that'll ever happen. So we've got twinnies in the house. I think because a couple of people bought the Kiwi plates. I'm assuming that's what. And Uber, that may still be something that she's gonna have to tackle because now she has to get her tire repaired, and so she's scheduled to do that on Monday. But then on Tuesday she has her second vaccine, which is actually down near me. And so she's going to be spending the night with me, but she needs to get here. So if her car's not done, her only option is going to be having to Uber to my house, and I can let her borrow my car to do whatever she needs to do. But, Uber is just an amazing thing that, I keep reminding her that things like that didn't exist when we were her age. When I was her age, email kind of existed, but like it was truly an academic thing. The internet really wasn't what it is now. I mean, it kind of existed, but things definitely change. Wow. So Melody's saying 3 of her 4 adult kids don't drive. City kids. Yeah. Well, it's also interesting too. Amelia, where she went to high school, she went to a private school, and it's about half an hour away. And so her birthday, she turned 16 during the summer. And so we just told her, we're like, okay, you turn 16, here's keys to your own car. You're getting your own butt to school, because we were tired of driving her back and forth because there was no bus service to her school. So she was driving pretty much from day one, when she turned 16. And so many of her friends either didn't want to get the license, or their parents did not want them to get the license. And I'm just like, I don't understand. So Dave's saying he would live downtown in a heartbeat. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those cases. Like, I'm sure the grass is always greener, but the idea of living downtown has been a fantasy of mine for a while. It's just, it's got to be practical, because at least living, anywhere in a good area in Chicago is pricey for just like a little tiny apartment. And, at some point I still have to, I have storage, I'm running a resale business. So Linda says she took mechanics, and you're all okay. So that's interesting. I don't think my school even offered that kind of a shop class, but it certainly wasn't anything to work on cars. It was more like metal work and woodworking and stuff. But yeah, I believe it. I mean, hate to, gender stereotype, but that I'm sure she didn't say, but I'm sure that the guy that came to help her was probably older. And so him saying, oh, I've never seen a girl change a tire. First of all, she's 21 years old. So it's like, okay, first of all, referring to her as a girl is a problem in and of itself. But that, he's just like, he's never seen a girl change a tire. And it's just, it's probably true, but it shouldn't be true. So I was definitely glad that she did that. So downtown Laurel. So Laurel, Maryland? I didn't think you were in Maryland. I thought I would remember that. I just remember Laurel, Maryland. So I think I'm grabbing in the middle of a chat, which is bad to do. Okay, but Rita says she would not live downtown. Okay, you actually live in one of the Dakotas, though, so you have a different interest. Like I live in kind of the edge of rural. Like, I'm still definitely considered a Chicago suburb, but 5 miles from me, there's still cornfields and soybean fields. Like, I definitely have agriculture and rural near me. So I can walk to the grocery. I can walk to the grocery store. I can walk to restaurants. I mean, there's a lot of stuff near me. When you're in North or South Dakota, and those are 2 of my customers, so I've been to North and South Dakota. You've just got vast open spaces, which a lot of people love, and that's just something that I don't need land. I am perfectly happy not having any property and paying a homeowners association to make somebody else take care of that tiny bit of property, tiny bit of land. I am more than happy to pay somebody else to take care of it for me. So Katie said she didn't get her car until she was 18. And then all the friends drove to school. I miss Sam. Hey, Sam, thanks for coming in. Lived in New York City for almost a decade. Yeah, because you're now up in New England. So that's got to be kind of a change, too, going from New York to New Hampshire. But that's also a beautiful area, too. The Dakotas are beautiful as well. But it's definitely like you just have to figure out. And Daniel, middle of rural. I grew up in a very rural community, and we thought we wanted that when our daughter was born. So we moved to the East Coast. We lived in Maryland. So all the times I talk about Maryland, I did live there for 2 years, but we lived in Southern Maryland, which was a much more rural area. And we hated it. It's like when you have to buy those freezer bag things to go to the grocery store, because by the time you get home, your food will have thawed. You're too rural. Like, that's just too far. I mean, we would still try and order takeout food, and we literally, nobody believes us, we literally had to meet the Chinese delivery guy in the church parking lot halfway, like doing a freaking drug deal, because they would not deliver all the way to our house. We lived too far out of town, and so we had to meet them just to get Chinese delivery. And we did that for like 2 years, and I said, no, when we moved to, again, a far suburb, but still a suburb, so that we had every grocery store, every restaurant, every, bank. So we had like everything you could possibly want, you could walk to. It still wasn't like living in New York City, but, it was definitely a change from the true rural, and there's huge benefits to rural. but we did not enjoy some of those benefits when we lived in Maryland. So we had, then the problem with the Maryland is we were the outsiders. You know, they had the East Coast mentality of us, you know, not being local, even though they were also very Southern, because Maryland is south of the Mason-Dixon line, which I didn't know that until I moved there. So let's see, like rambling, I'm not showing anything. Oh, Skunky Junk's in. Hey, Sean. So you're in someplace in Washington State, and I can't say I know anything about Washington State. Like, is that, I'm assuming a big chunks of it are rural, because don't you have the mountains that kind of go through there? So I don't know what part of Washington you're in. But yeah, there's some benefits to rural, and I think everyone's just got their difference. Nate's got mustache envy for Sam Doyen. And for those who do not know Sam, Sam is the man behind Dining at Sea. Sorry, I had to actually come up with the Instagram name. So Dining at Sea, I mentioned that when I was on Katie's channel talking about my collection of menus, travel menus, and I mentioned Dining at Sea was my eye candy. All kinds of, you know, just all the different variety of menus that are out there. And Sam is the man behind that. Someday I'd like to have Sam do a deep dive, but not everyone wants to be on a deep dive. So that's okay. We'll let Sam escape that one. But so Sean's like, I hate the idea of being that far away from restaurants. Restaurants, absolutely. My ex-wife, her requirement when we were picking the place, even though we were a little rural, she had to be within a half an hour of the hospital. Like, she just had this whole thing. Like, she just had to be she didn't have to be like walking distance to the hospital, but she needed to be within a half an hour of the hospital. So she didn't there, which did restrict where we lived, because if we'd lived farther away, the hospital would have been farther away. So I think we were probably like maybe 20 minutes from the hospital. So that was okay. So Rita said a car since 14 years. When you're in the Dakotas, you were probably driving when you were 12. You know, because you don't even have a speed limit, you know, so it's definitely different. You know, Katie growing up as a city gal. Okay, so Sean is saying he's in Western Washington, so everything is nearby. So, okay. Yes, and then there are rural, like I know the eastern part of the state, like as it bumps up against Idaho, gets a little rural. So Julia, hi Julia, I don't think I said hi to you. Live in a rural town, but close enough to a bigger city. And I think that's kind of the benefit. Yes, Maryland absolutely has strong Confederate sympathies. It's one of those cases that even people in Maryland, like, so who's here? Chad is here from Maryland. I don't know if Vinny was in here. There are people in Northern Maryland that didn't even know where I lived. I lived in a town called La Plata, which was actually the county seat of Charles County. But there are people like, where? No. And I worked in a place called Prince Frederick, which everyone assumes is Frederick. And Frederick, Maryland is north. And so there were 3 counties that made up Southern Maryland: Charles County, Calvert County, and St. Mary's County. Those were the 3 counties that wanted to secede, and the northern counties did not. So like the state was very divided. So when you hear about like that was kind of a divided state or whatever, there were definitely people that were absolutely, they wanted to secede. They believed they wanted to go to the South. You know, where I lived, my subdivision had been an old plantation. It was an old tobacco plantation. Weeds grew really, really well. Down the street, the first theater that my daughter ever attended was Port Tobacco Players. You know, so it's all the tobacco plantations around there. And there were issues living there. In my opinion, I felt that there were people that were exceptionally racist when I was living there. And it was just not something I wanted. Like, our daughter was 4 and 5 when we lived there. And it's kind of like, I'm not sure I want to keep doing that. So let's see. Yeah, so Southern Maryland is definitely foreign to us in the North. Absolutely. I mean, it was funny because I didn't know that moving there. And then when you run into people, like, you know, you just write, oh, where'd you from? Or like, oh, we used to live in Maryland. And you say, where? They just give you this blank look. They're like, where? There's also, because there's some of the whole whatever, St. Mary's County was the southernmost. That's right along the Potomac as it goes toward the ocean. And when we were looking at houses, the realtor was like, okay, where do you want to look? And we're like, well, my office is in Prince Frederick, but I'm like, I kind of want to be near DC because I was really excited about living near DC. And she's like, okay, well, do you have any interest in living in St. Mary's? And I'm like, well, not really, just because geographically it was pretty far. Like you'd be about an hour and a half from DC. And she's like, well, the reason I'm asking is if you want to see houses in St. Mary's, we will have to travel with an engineer, because up until like 10 years before we were doing this, there were no building permits. There were no requirements. So she's like, there are entire homes, like 2-story homes, that are not built on foundations because they didn't want no government telling them what to do. And I'm sorry, that could have sounded very derogatory. I meant every word of it, but I did not mean to offend anyone. They're rural, and they're Hatfield and McCoy. Like they did not want the government telling them how to build their house. So she's like, if you buy a house in St. Mary's County, it's entirely possible you don't have anything holding it up. So we didn't look in St. Mary's County. So you never know. Hey, Sarah Lee's in the house. Your package got packed. Your package is ready to go out. I got your email, but I don't think I saw your payment come through. But, I was late in sending invoices. It's the other reason I didn't have a video for tonight. I was so far behind everything, I couldn't even get my invoices out until today. So I was being very bad. All right, I'm intrigued. Rebecca lives 2 hours from Maine's biggest city. Bangor? I'm like literally trying to come up with a name. I can't. Oh my God, I can't even think of what the capital of Maine is. Augusta? No, I'm horrible. I've only been to Maine once. Oh, hey, Steve. There we go. So we've got rural. I think Steve's in a pretty rural area of New York. So not everybody lives in New York City when you live in New York. So he is in a more rural part of New York. So he's got a great as his name, the Brick House. He's got a great old property there, and so there's some great history, and there's some great stuff. There was some great old architecture, near the tobacco plantations where I lived. We were within walking distance of, here's your trivia question for tonight. We were within walking distance of the home of Dr. Samuel Mudd. Who is Dr. Samuel Mudd? So I'll let you guys think about that. Augusta, hey, I pulled that out and wiped it off. So, okay, I was right. So yeah, Sean, you're a little on the other side of the country. So there are probably a lot of people who also haven't visited Washington State. I have actually visited Washington State, but only Seattle, like a total tourist. It was there for work, but oh, don't worry, Sarah. It's early. I was about to say I'd already packaged yours for shipment, but then I didn't want to misspeak. So, but don't worry about it. So let's see. Bangor would be the second biggest city. Okay, so I wasn't too far off the gate there. Bangor. I have to go back to my Murder, She Wrote roots. There you go. Tia Fane, the Canadian, knows. So when your name's Mudd, that's where the phrase originally comes from. Dr. Mudd was the person who helped set John Wilkes Booth's leg when he broke it jumping out of the balcony after killing Lincoln. And everyone knew, a lot of people knew this one. And so then Dr. Mudd, though, was then tried for treason because he effectively helped John Wilkes Booth basically escape. So he was sent to the Dry Tortugas for prison. And actually, while he was there, he actually saved a bunch of people's lives because he inadvertently figured out how to prevent malaria by closing the windows. So there's just some weird stuff that you learn when you go visit Dr. Mudd's house. But yeah, so that was near where I was. But yeah, so we got that. So we got Steve saying hello to everybody. All right, so I've been rambling here and I'm not showing anything. So I showed you the one item that came from her, and that, like I said, has some decent value to it. So it'll be a great fundraiser. That came from Michelle Decker. This was the other one, which I literally, she had left it for me. I wasn't home at the time she picked up and then left this box. She left this one for me, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you might like it because, you know, I do have a lot of the metallic and the dark metal, you know, pieces in my collection." But I started looking into it, and it is marked, it's Nordisk Malm, M-A-L-M. So it does have the stamped mark on the bottom from Denmark. And I looked this one up, and the last one just sold on eBay like maybe 2 months ago for $140. Like, that's what it sold for, not what it was listed for. And there are none listed. Like, this isn't common. And so I'm like, really? Did you mean to leave this for me? And I think what she's doing is she is, I don't know if it's an estate situation. I think she's, you know, working through her parents, one of her parents' estate. And just, you know, if it didn't go to Goodwill, she said it was going to go to me. And I'm like, well, you know, you could probably sell this. You know, these are some really nice items. And she said, hey, if you don't want them, put them in the fundraiser. So this will definitely be another item for the fundraiser. You know, hopefully I can get near that $140, you know, so that we get raise some good bucks for the dachshunds. So Sandy is saying she went to school with a boy related to the Booths. Girl related to Lincoln, grew up in a town and some of Mud's family lived, and tried to get his name cleared. Yes, that was a big deal. That's why his house is now a museum, you know, because they were trying to say, like, he basically was tried and convicted, but maybe it was more of a nationalism, emotional prosecution that, you know, he, like, you really look at it, he was a doctor. He had to set the guy's leg. Like, that's what you do when you're a doctor. So Florida's getting into the 40s. Yike. All right. Well, and Seattle's getting, what's going on? Like, how is what's going on with the world that Seattle is warmer than Florida? I didn't even leave the house today, so I have no idea what we were, but we had gotten really, really nice. I left yesterday, did some shopping, did shoot a video, but that was the one that I didn't get edited in time for today. I think we were probably in the 50s, but it's like a Chicago 50s. Like, I was ready to put on shorts. This is beautiful. We did hit the 70s once already, but it was short lived. And then, like, pretty much 50s and 60s is as good as we've gotten, but it's only April. Like, right now, my daughter's looking at planting a garden where she's living farther north of me. And, you know, she pulled out the Farmer's Almanac because, you know, that's how high tech she is. And evidently Farmer's Almanac is saying don't plant until Mother's Day, which seems really late, but it's Chicago, and who knows, we could have a frost again. So 71 forecast for Susan tomorrow. So TFANs lived in Ontario. Jefferson Davis had a niece. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, studying the Civil War, again, where we lived did kind of consider themselves South. So, you know, my daughter was calling all of her teachers like Miss Emily and Miss, like, it was always, you always taught the, you know, you referred to the adults like kind of in the Southern way. And there really was kind of a difference in how some of the history was being taught in the school, the War of Northern Oppression. So let's see. You know, don't want to keep anybody waiting for, did Trusty come up with coasters? I did. Double set. So I've got 2 sets of coasters. I picked those up. Those will be going into a live sale. This one is a set. They're not marked as Pimpernel, but they're that Pimpernel style. You know, might be Cloverleaf, but they're all from Dublin. So we've got the Custom House from Dublin. We've got the Hospital in Dublin. The Great Courtyard of Dublin Castle. I'm like, courtyard of what? And the Provost's house, all in Dublin. So I've got coasters because I see coasters. I can't let them get away. And then this one was fun because, well, I don't know if fun is the right word, but it is a set of Noah's Ark coasters in a little wooden box, you know, kind of nice. Again, not quite as nice as the Pimpernel style, but it's got the cork on the back, kind of laminate in the front. But what was fun about it was this was at my favorite thrift store, Thrift and Dollar. And what evidently happened is they get a lot of their stuff by estate closeouts and things like that. Like, I don't exactly know the details of them, but this clearly came from an estate closeout because they had an entire shelving unit filled with Noah's Ark items. You know, some totally kitsch, some like really nice art pieces, some like totally modern, some older. And so I actually picked up a couple, which I don't typically pick up. I don't particularly pick up religious items, but you know, death, devastation, that's up my league. So we've got, this was kind of cool. I think now, after I brought it home, I think there might be an animal missing from here. I think something was glued on there. But it's an original by the Rusty Roof. It's a limited edition signed by the artist from 2001. And it's this little box, but the box opens, kind of pivots, and you've got all of the little animals inside. Now, you don't have pairs, so, you know, the crossbreeding should be quite entertaining. I want to know what a giraffe and a pig come up with, but they're just these, like, they're little kind of wooden animals, and they all come out. I don't want to take them all out because I'll probably never get them back in, but there is just kind of a cute little Polly Pockets Ark. So we've got that, and then were those the only two? I thought I got a third thing. No, I guess I only got the two. I thought I had another Ark item, but maybe I just got those two. So yeah, so I thought those were fun. So yeah, I did. I thought that was neat. It was just one of those things. So when it was sitting there, it was just sitting there like a little box. But then I picked it up. It was rattling. And I'm like, is it a rattle? And then I realized that it pivoted. So like I said, the only problem with it is I have a feeling that there's I guess that's supposed to be the dove, although it looks really like a duck. On the one side, you can see there's a discoloration on that one. I'm wondering if the crow or the raven was supposed to be sitting on the other side, or because there were no pairs, or it could be the pair of doves. I don't know. But still, thought it was kind of cool. And really, you'd have to look really careful. You can just say there wasn't anything there, and it's just this cute little box. And I've never heard of the Rusty Roof. So I don't know if that's a thing, but this was number 85 out of 1,500, and they're hand numbered. So I don't know. Yeah, I would have to do some research on that one. Oh, so I'm glad you guys like that. Yeah, I thought that was kind of fun. So Rita was 9 hours at an estate auction. I haven't been to a live auction in quite some time. But that's cool. You got the uranium glass and the linens hall. I've done a couple online auctions during COVID. And I've got an auction house that I like to go to, and they have a store attached to them. So I can sometimes, but I've actually not sat in an auction, you know, raising the paddle type in quite some time. So yeah, that's great. So I'm glad you got some fun stuff, Rita. Let's see. Oh, I did have another set of coasters. So no more Arks, but I did have another set of coasters. This was, I think I've actually had something similar to this before. This is the Heritage Coaster set, and it is the Watkins Huckster Wagon. So I kind of had to pick it up. So the Watkins Wagon, horse drawn, and that's a little tin with coasters inside. And what's cool about the ones inside is it's how they've changed over the years. So the cover image was the 1868 one, but then they also have the electric car, the 1911 one. They have another bigger car, 1912, 1927, 1928, and the hearse in 1954. So some of these cars, well, the backs are not open. I'm going to be doing a video at some point. I'm going to show my Huckster collection because, you know, believe it or not, there is such a thing. These are very similar to the Huckster wagons, but usually the Huckster wagons were open, so you could actually sell out of the back. But I thought those were kind of cool. And they've got the Watkins Heritage. It was 125 years ago. So I'll have to do some math because I don't know when. So this was the 125th anniversary from a company founded in 1868. So it's 125 on 1868. So 1968, 1988, 1993. So they are vintage from the 90s. It was a set of 6, and I thought those were fun. So those will be part of a live sale. So Connie Cable saying that she sold Watkins for 20 years. We used to go to the Sandwich Fair, which only occurred, it was like 1 week in August, maybe it was July. But every year growing up, we would go to the Sandwich Fair, and we would go to the Watkins, booth or building. I can't remember now what it was. And my mother would stock up on all the Watkins stuff. So we didn't have anybody. I don't know if she had anybody that she got it throughout the year, but the booth, at the Sandwich Fair, there would be a big booth with all the Watkins spices, and that's what she would then refresh. Kind of reminds me of the Waltons. Well, that was the Waltons probably shop from the Watkins. And thank you, Melody, for asking people to give the video a thumbs up. And I agree, Sarah Lee. Coasters are a little piece of whimsical art, and I 100% agree. It's one of those cases mine that I use on a regular basis, and I do rotate them through because, yes, I'm weird. They all do have the same theme. So they're all black and white. They're all German. They're all architectural. So it's but I do change them up because I like to have something different to look at. But you get into some of the fun ones. That's why I like this set, that they're actually all different. So you could have a set of 6, but there's a different image on each one. So, your family could fight over which Huckster wagon you were getting. Okay. No one would do that other than me, but, oh, hey, Pat Doodles, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. And yep, I had the record coasters. I got that. Katie bought those for me. I can't say that I'm an aficionado of different, who does the best spices. I will say I tend to stick to the same brand. And most recently I was trying to pick up cayenne pepper, and the brand that I normally get, which might actually be Watkins now that I think about it, the brand that I normally get, they didn't have it, and I had to go to a different brand, and I felt like I was cheating on my favorite brands. So okay, let's see what else. Here's a big piece. Well, I'm going to show both of these. They came from the same place, and I did a video from the store that I got this, and these just didn't make the video. Hey, Stephanie, got another Washington Stater. So Sean from Skunky Junk, if you're still here, I don't know if you know Thrifting Adventures. Sean, Stephanie, Sean. It's like a dating site here. I think you're both married, but whatever. This came from one of the shops, and it just didn't make the final video because it was getting a little long. I love pottery. This is just one of those things that when I see art pottery, I do like to pick it up. This is getting larger than probably what I should have picked up because it is going to be a little heavy to ship. So I might hold on to it until I might reopen a booth, but it was in such perfect condition. It is signed, but I don't know who it was signed by. I haven't been able to research whose signature that is, but it's just a very cool, I'm going to think it might actually be a functional casserole because it's got the cover on it. It's fully glazed on the inside, so you could functionally use it. And it's just in great condition. So I really liked that one, so I did pick that up. But this one was with it, so they just had all these different pieces of pottery. And this one, I'm actually hoping you guys. Marriage is flexible. What do you say, Melody? What do they do it differently in Pennsylvania? I'm hoping you guys can help me with this one. I don't know what this is. I'm guessing it's some kind of a Mexican pottery. It's got this, hopefully you can kind of see it. It's got what literally to me looks like the face of a fish on the front of it, but I don't think it is. I think it's just, some circles and some lines that kind of sort of look like an eyeball. In it is, so there's a hole here, which has a stop to it. And there's a hole here, which also has a stop to it. So I'm thinking it's a candle holder, but it just seems weird that you'd have a tall candle coming out of the middle, maybe, but then you just have this one little stubby place for a candle over here. because then you've got what basically it's in the shape of a goose, swan, duck, a duck with that tail. And then you've got on the back end, you've got two little ducks. So they're just kind of all attached. And then you've got this weird curlicue kind of here. Why would that be there? Like, does the duck wearing a headdress? I have no idea what this would be. There are a couple issues with it, which kind of hopefully will help date it. If you look at the forehead of this duck, you can see the dark glaze has chipped off of it. So you've got the raw glaze or the raw pottery sticking through. So it's not really a redware, but it's not like a white, clean clay. And then you've also got, and that's why I'm thinking these were candles. I want to say there's like the candle had dripped down. And in some cases it scraped away. When they probably cleaned it, they scraped away some of the glaze. Here you can actually feel some dimensionality, like the wax kind of built up onto it. And it's one of those cases, I don't know, Nate, since the holes are closed, I don't think you could use it as a bong, but keep on trying. It's like kind of has a handle, like you could hold it by the middle one, but like I said, both of them are stopped up. Like there's no way. And then in the bottom, there's actually holes in it. So like, even if this, maybe it was stopped up and it's just stopped up by wax, even if you could open them up, it would just fall out of the bottom. So it's like, it's not a pitcher. It's not signed. It's not marked in any way that I can find. But it does have all the air holes, from when it was made. And I'm wondering if this is some level of identification, if this is Native American, is it Mexican? I don't know. So if you've got any info on these, I would definitely appreciate that, because I'll probably do it in a live sale. Maybe I'll do it as an auction. Like if some people come back to me and say like, this is what it could be, I'll do it as a eBay auction. I actually, for those who didn't watch my last live sale, this is the current eBay auction. It's a Czechoslovakian amphora vase made in Czechoslovakia, so probably from the 20s, with a kingfisher on the front and then kind of a deco design on the back. So that's what's currently up for auction. I'm doing one auction a week. So that'll be up. So I might do the duck, whoever just said duck, duck, goose, might put that up, just because what the eBay auctions tend to then do is, I do believe that is somewhat of an equalizer, that you can figure out, well, what's it really worth, as opposed to just me randomly putting a price tag on it. But I did get a couple other pieces of pottery. This is one of my favorites. Got a swan, so not quite the goose or the duck. It is a Pewabic pottery in Detroit. And so they have been in business for over 100 years, and they do very expensive architectural art tiles. And then they started doing in the 90s these, basically, I don't know if you would consider them souvenir pieces, although I have been to Pewabic. I don't know if you would necessarily consider it a souvenir piece, but, basically art tiles along the lines of Minton or Ephraim or some of the other potteries, that you've got just this really cool glazed swan. And this exact tile has sold twice in the last 6 months. One, I think, was this glaze. It's kind of hard because it depends on what your colors look like. But I was trying to compare the two different colors. This one was considered, the one that sold for in the $20, I think it was $22 or $24. That one was considered blue-green, which I think is what this is. But then there was also one that was considered turquoise that looked similar to it, but it was a little bit more blue. And that one sold for a lot more. Like that one was like $50. So they definitely have some value to them, because they're just very nicely done tiles, that arts and crafts, look. And the fact that it's a swan will make that one really popular. Yeah, Rookwood would be a very similar. I should show it at some point. Oh, so that's your most expensive coaster. You were the one that asked me about my most expensive. Yeah, Rookwood coaster would definitely grab some dollars. Some point I'll have to show it, because I never did a video. I'm hoping to get the author of the latest Rookwood book Bob Batchelor. I'm trying to get him to do a deep dive with me on Rookwood. And so I have, as part of that, in case it happens, it's literally the president of Rookwood is related to the Scripps, or part of or married into the Scripps family. And if you recognize the name Scripps, they're the people who support or sponsor the National Spelling Bee every year. Rookwood now does the Spelling Bee trophies. I have one of them. I found it at a Goodwill. It's the participant trophy, not the winner's trophy, but it's a little stack of books. It's all in like a white glaze. It's like this little stack of books, like excellence or whatever. And it says Scripps. And then the year, I think it's not that old. It's like from 2015 or something like that. So somebody's like within the last few years, somebody's kid qualified to go to Washington, D.C. to compete in the National Spelling Bee. And the parents gave the participant trophy for that to Goodwill. So whatever. So I picked that up, and I don't even know how to value it because it's not that old. So I can't even sell it on Etsy. So I'm holding on to it because I think he might be interested. Oh, thanks, Katie. He might be, if Bob Batchelor comes on, like he may not have one of those. So I thought that would be, something interesting to show if I do get him to do a deep dive. But so yeah, so this one's Poabic, not as valuable as Rookwood, but along the same lines. That art pottery. Let's see. I wanted to show something else. This one was real friend mail. I don't want to forget because this one came from Helen Casey. This was one of those cases where I'm like, what's going on? I opened up my P.O. box and there was a box with Real Nifty Vintage tape on it. Like, I'm sorry, I haven't bought anything from Real Nifty Vintage in a while. And this must have been in one of his live sales, and Helen Casey picked it up. And I will then make this also available as, I'm hoping this is what she mentioned for. I will make this available for the fundraiser because it's a beautiful glass rendition of a dachshund, very much with that Murano look, just like the horse that my daughter bought me from Murano. Very cool. And so that was a very, very fun surprise, and also hilarious because Jeffrey from Real Nifty Vintage has talked about this before. He's standardized on a couple different box sizes because then you can buy them in bulk and you get them a little bit cheaper, and he has his own tape. Like, he's got a really great system. So the box was 9 by 9 by 9. Like, the box was actually fairly decent size, and that was the only thing in it. Looking up, like, is there something else in here that I'm missing? But that's so great that Helen Casey, I just picked that up from the post office yesterday. I only usually go to the post office like once a week, so I don't know how long it had been in there. So I need to make sure I send a thank you out to her because I don't think I'm lucky enough to have her in my chat. But I will absolutely thank her for doing that. And the other thing I forgot that I've got sitting over here, these I had heard about, but I'd never carried or never owned before. These were another donation. These were from Michelle Decker again. So these will be going into the fundraiser. They're the Kokeshi Dolls. Kokeshi, I think. Hopefully that's right. If not, you guys will correct me. But she gave me a set of 4. So I don't know the different significance of their sizes or how they're decorated, or that their heads wobble around or possibly come off because I'm afraid to break one. This one I think is a salt and pepper shaker because there's holes in her head and it looks like a plugger on the bottom, but I can't get the plugger out. This one though is hollow on the bottom. This one is solid on the bottom. Like, they're all different styles. I don't know anything about them. So these will definitely need some research, but these will go into the fundraiser as well. So their heads are very wobbly. They're like bobbleheads, and I'm afraid I'm going to snap them off. So I need to be careful with them. So Kokeshi, right? Kokeshi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but yes, that was And the only reason I even knew that was because Laura from BMOS Mercantile, a while ago, when she was on my channel, she was talking about what she collects and what she's on the lookout for. And she's like, oh, I love Kokeshi dolls. I'm like, You love what? And so she showed one. And so I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what it is. I've never come across them. I've never seen them in an antique store. I've never seen them at a thrift store. I've never been able to pick one up for resale. So it's like, I don't even know their values really. So I'm going to have to research those. I'm not sure if the plugger comment is related to the Kokeshi doll, but okay. So I may have to do a little bit of research on Crazy Lamp Lady, that she buys them all the time. So I don't know where she's picking them up, but I've not seen them. So yeah, so those were donated. Kind of keep an eye on time because I wanted to didn't want to run too long, but I definitely wanted to show this. Oh, you know what? I meant to put Huck behind me. I'm sorry, I forgot to give you your Huck sighting. I will give you a Huck sighting later. But I should have put him up there because I got my vintage community critters bag. So I don't know if Katie, if you can put the link to this, but this is a design by Angela Marksberry. And if you don't follow Angela Marksberry, A Marksberry is her Instagram channel. She does the weekly calendar. So she does the calendar in like kind of a image version on Instagram, or you can follow Trisha at Sandy and Otto. She does the calendar as a YouTube video with hyperlinks. So depending on how you like to do it. But this one is the Vintage Community Critters bag. And I was so honored that as it was developed, they put Huck right on the Vintage Community. So you've got Louie. So you got Katie's Louie is up there. I said Sandy and Otto. So Trisha from Sandy and Otto. Sandy and Otto are her pets. I don't know if they're both cats, both dogs, or one of each. But so Otto is on there. Christy from Tippy Winky. I don't know. Those are two different pets, but I think that's Christy's pet. I don't actually know all of the pets. Dusty, Tiggy, Little Kitty, Bella Bandit, Squeakers, Huck, Katie and Sadie, Maybell, Stella Butter, Mr. Flufferpants, that's Misty. Yeah, so there's your mix. So Mr. Flufferpants, that reminds me, so Misty, if you guys have not been watching the vintage Rescue Squad, that I've completely blanked on the name, which is bad form because I'm going to be on it. So Vintage Rescue Squad is on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. And it is hosted by Misty from Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter on her channel. So the Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter channel. And then co-hosted by Michael Todd from the Cult of Vintage. And then they rotate their guests. And so the guests for tomorrow night are me and also Cindy from Mimi's Treasure Cottage. So it'll be the four of us on Misty's channel tomorrow night. It'll be a live chat. So you can ask questions and hopefully have some fun and hang out. So Sandy and Otto were Trisha's grandparents' pets. Oh, okay. Is Dust Bunny on there? Whose is Dust Bunny? Well, there's Dusty. Is that the same? There's a Dusty on top of the Tiggy. So I don't know. I think Katie was involved with like picking trying to find some of the names. Because if I remember correctly, as it was being designed, somebody's pet died. If I remember that correctly. Well, Salem just recently passed away, but I'm not sure if Salem was scheduled to be on here. So anyway, so yeah, okay, so Dusty. Oh, good. So yes, Dusty did make it on there. And thank you, Sarah Lee. Yes, so the Vintage Rescue Squad tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Dusty is the bunny and Tiggy is the cat. Oh, Vinny's pets. Okay, so Dusty and Tiggy. Okay, excellent. Dusty is Vinny's bun. I'm just going to leave that alone. Yeah, so Salem was scheduled to be on it, but Salem unfortunately passed. But Salem was like 19, so Salem had a good cat life. So anyway, so yeah, definitely wanted to show that. I also show this is a fun one because this is like a personal victory for me. I've talked about this before. I have a collection of Hazel Atlas crisscross, well, several different things. I've got the mixing bowls. I've got the refrigerator dishes. What I discovered is my dishwasher, and yes, I do put my vintage glass in the dishwasher. My dishwasher, for some reason, has a different size frame on the right side than it does on the left. And when you put a lid on the left side, it can't go anywhere because the frame is tight. If you put it on the right side, it slides right through and smashes on your kitchen tile and into millions of pieces. So not safety glass. So I've been without the lid for the rectangular one for a couple of months now. And I found one on eBay, but it was, I think there was, the lid didn't fit properly on it. I'm like, well, I could still buy it. Maybe that lid will fit better on mine, but you never know. And then I found another one that you could buy the whole thing, but the shipping, I think it was coming from California, from the shipping was really expensive. So I was super excited to find this locally, because I desperately needed it, because I have the little ones, which are like half the size. And then I have the square one, which is literally double this size. They all stack. This big one is too big. Like, I'm sorry, I never have enough food to fill the big one. And the half ones, the little square ones, are too small. So I usually end up having to use 2 of them if I'm making leftovers, whatever. So I needed the rectangular one, so I got it. So that was a fun find. And I had this setting to the side because if you follow me on Instagram, hey Harry, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen my drama on this one. This is my newest collection. I actually have 2 of them, but I was supposed to have 4. So this is my newest collection. It's entirely George's fault. These were shown by George in one of his Shop With Me videos when he was at an antique store or an antique mall. And he was showing these. They are 19th century window sash rests. So in double hung windows, before they had the counterweight system with the pulleys, if you wanted to prop your window open, you had to put something to prop it. So either you had a wood stick, or if you had an expensive enough house, you had Rockingham ware, glazed pottery ones. And so I bought these from England. That's where they tend to be. I brought these from England. Hey, Bren. I bought them as a set of 4 that were being marketed as stove legs. Fine, whatever. They sent the 4 of them, wrapped these, and this is at least a pound, if not maybe 2 pounds. Wrapped them each in a single layer of bubble wrap, taped into a shoebox, literally a shoebox. 2 of them did not survive. One of them basically just had like all of the raised parts on the top, the glaze all chipped off. So it's actually still usable. It's sitting over on the shelving unit. It's got something sitting on it. So it's covering up the broken pieces. These are the ones that are that survived. And then one is literally in pieces. I won't open that up, but so those, for now, they're going to sit on the piano. And then if I buy more, there's one that's sitting in my eBay store or in my eBay cart right now, because the item itself is inexpensive, but it's coming from Australia. And the shipping is something like $80. And so I'm deciding if I really want it that badly. So we shall see. And yes, it was tragic. I was very disappointed when that happened, because I will say, and this is one of those cases where, karma, whatever, they didn't know what they had. And so what I paid for the 2 surviving ones is about what I would pay if I wanted to buy 2 more. So if I'd gotten all 4, it would have been a really, really, really good deal. I basically got 2.5 because I've got 2 plus a damaged one. So I basically just count myself lucky. They were very nice about it. They were commenting like, "What? How can we make this up to you? Like, what can we do?" It is what it is. It happens. I feel that if you're going to ship things like this overseas, you probably should package better. But sorry, Julia. Sorry you're not feeling well. But I had never heard of them either. It was a video. This was probably now about a month ago. And he was in one of his, he does premieres on the George, the Antique Nomad. Definitely follow him if you're not. But he does videos on Mondays and Wednesdays. He does them as premieres. And what he'll typically do is they're pre-recorded. and it's usually him shopping at a sale that he's either working at, or sometimes he's at an antique show or an antique store. It changes. And so he was just like walking through, and he was videotaping, and all of a sudden he stopped and he showed this one. I want to say the one he showed had a lion's head face, which I still want to get. But it was about the same size. It has this flat design on the back. So like this is what would be facing your living room, and the window would sit here. So it's like you would have a place for it to sit. It is somewhat odd because it's raised on 3 edges. So it's like if you had this in for the window, it would sit actually on the ledge, but whatever. He had one of these. He literally talked about it for maybe 30 seconds in the premiere. I'm like, where were those? What were those? How old are those? And I immediately went on eBay and bought them. I need these in my life. So yes, I totally agree. Melody, it's just one of the cases you don't know what you need until you stumble across it. And it's one of those cases that they're not rare, but they're not common. And so when you find them, they're not typically that expensive, but because most of the time they end up in the UK, they're shipping to get them. Like I could replace the pair that broke. They're available. I think it's $30 or $40 for the pair. So like that's fine. But then the postage on that was another $50 or $60 from the UK because they're kind of heavy. So it's just one of the, like, I'd love to stumble across them on my own. But the one that's in my cart is a little bit taller, and it's the figure of a woman. It's just her bust. And then you turn and she's got this flat ledge in the back of her head. And I just find it so quirky. So I want to find a couple different designs, and I think they look really nice. You can't see them here, but I think they look really nice against my piano. And they're easier and cheaper than the sewer tile collection, which I was trying to build because I got discouraged by how expensive the really nice pieces of sewer tile were. So I may never build that collection just because I can't afford to. But so Melody, since you saw mine, they're, like I said, so they're around. Now we're all going to start fighting each other for them on eBay. But it's all about whether you're willing to pay for the shipping. And yes, George is absolutely awesome. Evidently, I don't know. There's one pair. This is considered the lion paw, and then there's a lion's head. And I want to say there was one, I can't remember if it was the paw or the head, that when you went into the past sales, they said they're not marked. There's no markings. There's no studio mark. There's no stamp. There's no signatures. So it was available in the United States, and they were saying that it's possible they were Bennington pottery, which did that same type of a glaze. But but that was even a guess. So it could have been that they came from the UK and then they came over. Maybe they would have made them. They primarily were being used in the 18th and early 19th century, because it was like late 19th century was when the pulley system that the counterweight system was introduced to the windows. And so that really just kind of made them obsolete. So a lot of them just didn't survive because once you replaced your windows, you didn't need them. And they weren't I think they're super decorative, but if you weren't going to have them in your window, I guess people didn't keep them. So there's a couple different terms that I'm trying to do searches on, but the general term is window sash rest. So it could be a sash rest. It could be a window rest. Those are the 3 terms that I've got in my eBay reminder, alerts for all 3 of those. But unfortunately, like I said, the ones that I bought, they were being sold as stove feet. So they didn't even know. And I think the reason I came across them was because one of the makers that does this really dark brown glaze is Rockingham in the UK. I think what I had done was I was searching also for Rockingham, and they had marked it as a Rockingham glaze, but as stove feet. So I kind of stumbled across it that way. So it's just one of those, it's definitely a rabbit hole you can go down. And they appear, let's just say they appear to have been sold in pairs. So I'm assuming you use 2 to a window, but I don't know, because I would think from a functional standpoint, why couldn't you just put this smack in the middle? So that part I don't know. The only other thing somebody suggested is maybe the reason they're carved like this is maybe they actually went on the side of the sash. So instead, I'm picturing, you're sitting in the living room, I'm the window, you set this up and then the sash sits on top of it, in which case you could use one. But the fact that they have the 3 sides, then the question was, well, maybe it fit into the sash, like the frame, and then the sash sat this way. I don't know. I haven't found anything in any of my books. I like literally, it's basically trying to find it on the internet. And if it's on the internet, it must be true. But that's how you sell things that get called stove feet, whatever. Like I have no idea how they thought those would be the feet to a stove, but if you look at it, what else would they, what else are they? So it's definitely hard. And that's entirely possible because once you had 4 of them, like I could totally see, and that's why I was really disappointed I lost the 4. I have in my dining room table, which is where I'm sitting at, on the dining room table, I actually have a rectangular piece of slate, which has my pewter and some of my storage boxes and stuff on it. I was thinking about putting these around all 4 corners and elevating that slate. Well, now I've only got 2. And I did try and do it, and it technically sat on there. It just didn't feel stable, because it had so much cantilevering off both sides that I felt if I bumped into it or something. So unfortunately, like that is how I was going to use them because I like my air conditioning. I don't open my windows. And I certainly don't need sash rests to do so. Yes, tote bag is awesome. So yeah, definitely. I think Katie dropped the link. And absolutely, Bren, it's trying to figure out either how to misspell something, because that's also a fun way to find a good deal. Or just like, okay, if I'm looking at this, what would I think it was? Because it could be super obvious to all of us, but because we've seen them, or now you guys all know, and you'll be able to impress all your friends because you now know what these are. But if you're just seeing one out of the blue, particularly if you only have one, I'd probably call it a bookend, to be perfectly honest, because it is fairly heavy and it's pretty flat against the back. So like you could, kind of use this as a bookend. So it's just trying to like read people's minds to figure out like what else would they list. Absolutely. Well, you live in Florida, so you at least have an excuse. I just, I don't know about Central Illinois. I used to go to Nashville, Illinois every summer, and it was just as muggy and just as horrible, as it is up here near the lake. Just the winter, Chicago just has the extremes on both sides. We get brutal winters, super cold, a lot of snow, and then brutal summers with high temperature and really high humidity. It's just killer. So absolutely. As my daughter is considering her first apartment, going off to graduate school, she's looking, and it's kind of like, well, what are your must-haves versus what are your wants in an apartment? And so we're kind of comparing notes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, my must-have would be air conditioning. That is not a want. Like that is like, I will die if I do not have an apartment with air conditioning, and preferably central air, but at least a window air conditioner. And call me spoiled, but that is just one of those cases that I think one of her high priorities was a dishwasher. Like, really? She growing up, I don't think she ever did the dishes because we had a dishwasher, and now she's in a place that doesn't have a dishwasher, and so she's washing dishes all the time. I'm like, okay, life is not that bad. But so your life experiences give you different preferences. But yes, I could not live without air conditioning either. Oh, and Angela's here. I'm sorry. I don't even notice when Angela came in. But somebody said they like the tote. Hi, Angela. Yes. So I did show, and Angela, I don't think had actually seen the tote itself. She does obviously design the art, but there was a question about how clear it is. So it is primarily on the top part of the tote, and it's just the one side. There's nothing on the other side. So like there's not a design at the very, very bottom, but it's pretty legible. Like, if you look at it really, you may not be able to see, I'm kind of looking in the camera there. You may not be able to tell that each of the names that it's making a paw print. So let me get really close and hopefully you can see it there. So yeah, you can see that there's a white that's not showing a huge contrast against the natural canvas of the tote bag. They'd probably show up a lot better on a color of a t-shirt, but it's totally fine. And it's totally legible. So like there was concern whether they would be legible, and I think it's totally fine. Well, I'm gonna like wrap up really quick. Last thing I want to show is, yes, air. I can imagine that air conditioning is necessary in Mississippi too. I'm going to show because this one is from my shopping excursion yesterday. So I was basically gone all day, and I came back with one item. But I was very happy to have this one item. But I went to a new place. I went to a place called Salvage One. It's an architectural salvage yard. And so it's actually somewhat odd that they had this. So they had amazing pieces, but they had amazing pieces that were selling for thousands of dollars. Like there's just nothing I was going to be able to pick up. The video will be awesome, but that's the one I didn't. So I'll hopefully have that one running next week. But this one is from January 1940. And it's old enough that all the ads are in black and white, so you don't have any colored ads. But there's articles about how to do photography. Take the guesswork out of enlarging with the holobrome projection paper. So there's just like the ads are very specific to the art of photography, which I really thought was cool. And then there's really interesting articles like how to do the commercial photography, how to photograph the staircase. Industrial motion pictures, a growing field the commercial photographer should watch. A growing field. That was 1940. America's first commercial photographer. And it actually shows the portrait photography. So there's just like, I feel like this is one of those cases. It's cool from the content wise, but then there is some cool advertising in here as well. So there's like the General Electric Mazda photo flash lamps. And you've got kind of an action shot, so here's the new GE Mighty Midget photo flash, Agfa Triple S pan film. After many years, I'm not sure why she's drinking coffee. Sulfite. Negatives may be saleable. Negatives may be saleable after many years. This use of two unassociated shots by a well-known Chicago studio illustrates the point. Your files may contain, I guess that was the point. There's a picture and then there's a picture up in the corner. So like they're talking about doing double exposures. And yes, Salvage One in Chicago. So it's on the west side of Chicago. And what took the bulk of the day is there's a Salvage One, and then across the street from that, or like 2 blocks away, is a place called Urban Remains, which I should have shot video there, but it was a super open spot. There's also artist studios there. The music was so loud. They were literally like banging on anvils. Like it was so loud, but some of the stuff there was amazing to see. And then there was a place called The Painted Lady, which had some really high-end stuff. And then across the street was another place of decor, which was kind of pricey. But what was interesting about it is you may have heard me talk about it. There's a place called Warehouse 55, which is kind of in the pocket of where Aurora and North Aurora has all these thrift stores and vintage stores and decor stores. They're opening a second location there. So the Warehouse 55 sign was already up. They opened next weekend, but they hadn't opened yet. So they were like in this perfect location with all these other stores. So the prices are a little higher. So I wasn't really able, other than this, I wasn't really able to pick anything up. But it was just amazing just to see. And like when I showed the video, you'll see it. Like Salvage One, you can actually rent for weddings. And when I first heard that, I'm like, well, that's kind of a weird place for weddings. Oh no, I suddenly want to get married just to go there. Because that's actually not true. But anyway, they do have some really, just where you would get married. Like when you go down the aisle, there's big elephants. Like there's just this really cool thing. And then you can rent for the reception. The furniture for the reception are like old vintage sofas and just, deco tables and just all these super cool pieces of furniture that are all for sale. Like everything was, thousands of dollars, but that as part of your party, you could sit there and like use all this stuff. So Angela says she's going to be updating the Critters bag. So, like Salvage One is a curated salvage yard. So like they have like one of the coolest things, and I'd show it, but my phone's not nearby. Like they had taken a massive stump, probably 2 feet across, maybe about 2 or 3 feet tall, hammered a bunch of nails into it, and then put all over it, all the way across the top and all the way up and down the sides, doorknobs. Like East Lake, Victorian, like just brass, just heavy duty, just all of these doorknobs. And it's just like this piece of art with this huge wooden rustic stump with then all of this industrial metal, put on it. And then they had another one that had all the glass doorknobs on it. They had a room full of just the letters. Like, I see the design shows and stuff like, oh, let's spell soup. And I'm like, where are you freaking getting these letters? Well, evidently they're all at Salvage One, because they had all the letters that come off of the, big, industrial signs and stuff. And you could just spell whatever word you want. It was very, very cool. Yeah, it would be a version. It sounds a little bit like Eco Relics, although Eco Relics seems to also do smalls. The problem with Salvage One is they really, other than the magazine, they really didn't have smalls. Like, I mean, I guess technically they had hinges and stuff like that, like, and those weren't that expensive. But for the most part, like, they are literally, I have it in the video, a synagogue. The brass chandeliers from the synagogue, you could buy it like from the 1880s. You could buy it for $1,500, and it's just like, how do you sell this stuff? Like, it's horrible because it's going to get split apart, but at least it got saved. So it's like, it's just this amazing location. Yeah, so it was definitely a lot of fun. I'm worried. Okay. I'm not sure what that was about. But yeah, so it was Salvage One in Chicago. So the video that I took is all of Salvage One. I wish I could have taken some. Urban Remains, I think, could have been a nice little tag on. I think I just need to go there during a time that they're literally not working. Because that's why it was so loud, because they were loud. There's like a little studio section. They were loud. And then because they were loud, the music was louder. And it was like, you could barely carry on a conversation. But I'm sitting there fantasizing about all these things, like almost to this extent more so than at Salvage One, because Salvage One, these pieces were just epic. And it's like, I'm sorry, I think this is gorgeous, but literally what am I supposed to do with a 9-foot tall wooden elephant? Like, it's not, I couldn't even fit it through my front door. Where at Urban Remains, they had, like, one of the things I fell in love with, they had all of the really elaborate Victorian fireplace inserts. So like the scallop top and like little footed parts and like the grate and everything. And I'm like, I don't even have a fireplace, but I think this would look awesome, just kind of sitting off to the side. It just had a really awesome look to it, and you could really envision, bringing some of those smaller pieces. They're still somewhat large, but some of those smaller pieces, bringing them into your house. So it was definitely it was a lot of fun. And absolutely, what was really nice about what they did, and this was really the only one that they had that I saw. So they literally they had these gigantic, there were 2 really big chandeliers that were, they were 40 by 40 by 57, I think. So not quite 5 feet tall. And then they had another one, which was a little bit taller, had a double row of lights and an interior chandelier. So those 3 were there, and then they was all on a big pallet, and there were a couple other smaller pieces with chains, and the chains all had the Star of David on them. Well, there was a binder sitting there that was from the building from where they came from. So I think they had applied, from what I could tell, I think they applied for landmark status in the 90s and didn't get it. And so the building was destroyed. And then all of this, like, this was the stuff that was salvaged out of it. Now, I don't know if it was salvaged before it was torn down, because it was it was a little rough shape, but it could have also been an abandoned building for 20 years. Who knows? But they also had, stained glass windows. They had what to me looked like it was probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 feet tall and about 10 feet long mirror in a huge dark, with columns and a bench. It looks like it came out of like Union Station. Like again, where would I use this? But it was just this massive piece that you could just totally picture in the middle of this amazingly open space. But yeah, the synagogue is definitely the art, and it's just, I wish they had more stories behind some of the pieces, because I took one, they had a huge stained glass window suspended from the ceiling, because probably looking at it, it was probably 20 feet tall. So they couldn't even put it in their space. So they had suspended it, horizontally. So you're walking underneath it, and it was amazing, but it's like, I don't know where it came from. So it's like, it's probably a church, but once it leaves its, where it came from, it's like the stories need to stay with it. And I think Salvage One, like they're not on purpose trying to split it up. Like they take their history very seriously, but it's just one of those cases that's like some of the stuff they get, I don't even think they know where it came from. So it'd be great to find more and more stories like that. Let's see. So Rita was putting a potted plant flower assemblage in a corner. Oh, with the fireplace. Yep. That would actually be perfect. Those fireplace inserts were so beautiful. And then like they had all kinds of the mantles and stuff. Like if you actually already have a fireplace, this is one of those cases that this would be the type of place you need to have every dimension of your house, so that when you're walking through this place, like, I need that. Where can I fit it? And okay, the distance between these two windows is 42 inches. I can fit this. So you can pick up some of these things. They were just, and for what they were, the prices were beyond my means, but for what they were, the prices were completely reasonable. I mean, when you're talking about literally a one of a kind, like those chandeliers, they may have to be restored, but just the resale value of the brass is probably worth the $1,500. It was just some amazing stuff. And that's it. We don't have the room. Like I don't have a place to store it. Like I can barely, my Etsy store can't get too big because I just don't have the room to keep all the different stuff. And the stained glass windows, and some of those were actually very reasonably priced, because in some cases they were like the transom. So it really wasn't all that big. So it was super elaborate. And some of them they had in sets, so it's like you could buy the whole set and recreate, how they were used. Just again, they had probably a 8-foot tall by 10-foot wide quilted arch. It was made out of wood, but the wood had been wrapped with the log cabin design of a quilt in pink. And I don't know if it was supposed to be like a arch to get married under, but it didn't seem like it would hold up very well. Or what we thought might have been a surround for a bed. Like you would somehow that got attached to the wall, and then your bed was in the middle of it, and maybe it had drapes or something in it. But like all of a sudden you're just walking around the corner. Why is that there? What did that come from? So, all right. It is longer than I'd anticipated. I planned on shutting off at an hour, but I rambled. I didn't even show you half my stuff. Let's see. Do I have anything like really quick I'll show you? Well, this was fun. Oh no, I've got Katie, so I'll show you this one. This was, I don't remember where I picked this one up. This is more modern than Katie would ever want. So I don't feel bad putting it in my live sale. I need to do some math on this one, because this is Celebrate Mickey 75 Years of Fun with Coca-Cola. So it's this pewter easel. It's got the stand for the easel. But what I was kind of surprised by is the framed art piece actually comes apart. It's currently Velcroed onto the tag. So I don't think I've got the original wrapper. I think this is like new old stock. I don't think it was ever taken off the card. But what I don't know is it says Celebrate Mickey 75 Years of Fun. I don't know when that would put it. It's like, I don't know technically when Mickey, as counting the Disney years, I don't know when Disney started or Mickey started. So I don't know what 75 years. I would say this is probably at least the 90s, if not going into the 2000s. But I thought it's a Christmas scene. They're all caroling. So you've got Pluto, you've got Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Goofy. So it's like the Fab Five, and I don't know what it has to do with Coca-Cola. So it's on the card. It's like got the Mickey card on the back. It says produced under authority of the Coca-Cola Company. owner of the trademark Coca-Cola, Coke, the dynamic ribbon device, and the design of the contour bottle. What an odd way to say what their trademarks are. Copyright the Coca-Cola Company, all rights reserved. Copyright Disney. And then it has the barcode. So like it's not like Steamboat Willie was 20s, 30s. I want to say Steamboat Willie was 20s, but it could have been the 30s. Well, okay, Snow White was 39. All right. Okay, Americans, you should be ashamed of yourself. The Finn has answered when Mickey Mouse was started. So Mickey Mouse in 25, and that I would have said 28, but that sounds right because I thought it was before the Depression. So yeah, 20s. Catherine is saying 23. So if we're saying, what did I just say? It was 75 years. So we're around 2000. Like we're probably somewhere in the 90s, late 90s, maybe 2000. So I mean, it's not a super rare piece, or I wouldn't imagine, or expensive piece. But I thought it was kind of cool that it does have the Coca-Cola on there, and it's technically a Christmas piece. So I'll just put that in a live sale. I just thought that was a fun one, so I highlighted that for Katie. And you know, I've got some others. Oh, you know what? One last thing, because I've got some Southerners on the line here. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I want people to answer, but everyone be kind. Try not to demonetize me. Not that I'm doing, like, I make nothing off of the videos, so like that's not really a big issue. I can't get him back in his sleep. All right. So this I picked up. I'll show a couple of things I forgot. I had shown in a live sale a while ago, I picked up some Cracker Jack toys. I didn't show all of them. I've also got these little books, Nurse Clara and the Rabbit and the Turtle. And they say right on them that they're Cracker Jack toys. So, you know, it makes my life a little bit easier. 1968 is the Nurse Clara and yeah, and the Rabbit and the Turtle. They're both from 68. So I got these. I got a Lone Ranger pin. I got a little Cracker Jack bowling pin and bowling ball keychain. And then I got this. So let me pull this out, because this is a piece that I'm not 100% sure what to do with, because I don't want to be insensitive. I don't want to whatever. I do not know if this is Cracker Jack. I just know that everything else there was either marked Cracker Jack or appeared to be Cracker Jack toys. This is a Mammy finger puppet. So when it was sold flat. So it's die cut. So when you open it up, there's a little tab that goes in. I'm not going to insert it because it wasn't inserted. But it is a little Mammy, maybe Aunt Jemima. Like I don't know what to refer her as. I would say based on her dress, she's from the 30s. That'd be a guess. But I don't know what she's from. And so it's one of those cases where I will probably sell it just as a Cracker Jack toy, you know, whether technically it's a Cracker Jack or not. The question ends up being, is this something like I don't even think I could list this on eBay or Etsy. You know, they're pulling stuff like that. I have to be very careful with what I called her, and I don't want it to be considered racially insensitive or anything like that. So I don't know like what really to do with her. Because I think that this is a toy, like it is something that, you know, maybe in the right hands, maybe it should go into the right collection. I don't know who the right collection should be. I just think it's kind of cool. So it's just one of those cases that there's cultural sensitivity that I want to be aware of, but I don't know, like, I don't mean any offense trying to sell her. I don't mean anything by it, but I don't know if there's any more meaning, behind the fact of selling it. So Sarah Lee agrees that she thinks the print on the dress is really 30s. One of the things I found out that I think is Cracker Jack is back in the 30s, they said that the toys were not they were not protected. So you would get food staining because it was caramel colored, caramel covered popcorn. You would get food staining the material because there definitely is some, good night, Jeannie. There's definitely some discoloration that could have been from something totally different, but it's a finger puppet. So why would it get totally? So yeah, maybe it does belong in a museum, but I don't know what museum. So that's what I'm thinking. I think if I just listed her as a vintage Cracker Jack toy, I doubt, because I don't think there's anybody manually like looking in eBay or Etsy. They're looking for keywords. So if I don't say African American, if I don't say, Mammy or Aunt Jemima, or like, again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like those are the terms that are obviously at issue. I think by her look, she's not the look of Aunt Jemima. She really would be more considered a Mammy. And so it's just one of those cases that I probably will just sell her in a live sale. That is my intention, because I don't want to run the risk. I've already had stuff pulled off from Etsy, and a couple things I challenged, and never have I won a challenge. So I don't want to have too many flags against my account, because the stuff that I was selling, I never felt I was doing anything wrong, but they did. So like, it's what's right, quote unquote wrong, versus what they are going to allow. Could be three totally different answers. So anyway, nobody's getting like super offended. Also, Melody saying she actually has a collection. Yeah, and Katie mentioned too, this is one of these cases that if there's anything that I showed you tonight that you like, drop me an email, comment the video or drop me a private email and just say you're interested in something. And if, maybe we can work something out. I don't care. I don't care where I sell it. The only time I won't sell something, if I've already promoted it specifically for a live sale, like on my Instagram channel, if I specifically say, this is going to be a tomorrow night sale, I've had people that want to buy something from that. And I feel weird about that, because then other people might come to the sale, wanting to buy it, and then it's not available. So, but hey, this was just like, hey, look at what Patrick bought. If you want it, for me, it opens up a slot in my sale. So if I want to sell 25 items or 35 items, and you bought this or any of this stuff now, well, that means I can sell a different item during the sale. So I'm totally flexible. But yeah, so I wanted to show that because I was kind of curious. I wanted to get like some group think, what people's opinions. That's really interesting, Melody, that you collect that. And so then Catherine saying she's got an African-American, a friend who runs an African-American museum for her town. Like, those are the types of things that this is not worth a lot of money. Like, it's still a Cracker Jack toy. They're not super valuable. So it's one of those cases that, if it's going to go, like if Melody has a collection, or if Catherine, if you're interested, if your friend was interested, I first come, first serve for the most part, but it's like, I like the idea that it is going to go someplace that they are trying to, I don't want to like over dramatize it, but like kind of protect the future, save the future, categorize the future, whatever. They're trying to keep it together because it is history. And the idea of just like getting rid of history because we don't like the flavor of it right now, it's kind of silly, because we need to learn from it. So I personally don't feel that she would have been disrespectful even at the time she was made, but maybe she was. Like, I don't know. That's not an era of history or a cultural knowledge that I have. So anyway, so yeah, and definitely Rita's saying the same thing. So definitely, Melody, you should definitely, you've shared some things from your Oktoberfest collection and from Halem's collection. So definitely follow Melody on Instagram. Maybe she'll post something up there. And there you go, Katie. That way we learn from it and don't repeat it. Because unfortunately, we repeat stuff like that all the time, and you kind of wonder, like, how did we get here? And maybe it's because we didn't talk about it and talk about why it was wrong. But on that note, we will close things up. So I think for everyone who joined out, like, this is longer than a premiere would have run. I ended up like rambling my way through most of the stuff I was going to show you. So hopefully you guys had fun. I'm starving because I didn't have dinner, so I'm going to go do that now. But like I said, as Katie mentioned, if you're interested in anything, just drop me a note, let me know. I will probably, a couple of these things might end up on Etsy, or, again, a couple will be held for the fundraiser, so you may not see them for a while. But if you don't want to, buy straight from the sale, you can watch my Etsy store or show up on one of my live sales. You'll probably see some of these items. So again, thanks so much for everybody hanging out. Hope you had some fun. I'm not sure if there's anybody else doing anything tonight, but check out Angela's calendar and or Trisha's calendar from Sandy and Otto, and support any of the channels that you enjoy. We definitely appreciate your support. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.